You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Alisa, who's a photographer in Breckenridge, Colorado. And Alisa is going to give us tips on how to take great photos of your dog or dogs. Welcome.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
Well, thank you again for being on the podcast. You have a ton of talent, so I wanted to bring you on. And one of the things with Bark and Wag, and then I also have Chuck the Pug, is how to take a great photo. And obviously one of the Bark and Wag models is a black dog. And so it's very hard to get her personality. And so I just thought it would be great to talk to someone that's a professional on what tips you can, besides making sure your dog's trained to sit and stay, which mine seem not to be, on what you do to take a good photograph.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. So just a couple tips to take good photographs. First of all, if you know you want to take a photograph, like it's not like your dog is doing something cute and you snap a picture. If you're like, okay, I want to get a good picture of my dog. You really want to choose an area that has a background that doesn't have things all over the place. So if you can go outside and just have some nice trees in the background, or if you're inside and you can get the dog against some sort of wall where there's not just a lot going on, because a lot of what happens is people will get good pictures of their pets, but then you look at the background and there's so much clutter going on that it takes away from the photo of their pet. So that's number one, is really look at the background that you're using. Also, what's really good, especially like if you're using your iPhone, because so many people use their iPhones this day and age for photos, is when you're putting your pet against the backdrop, don't put your pet right up against the backdrop. Like you want several feet from the backdrop to wherever your background that you're shooting on. This way it'll create bokeh. So bokeh is that kind of like blurriness that you'll see in some pictures. And that's because the distance between the background and the pet, and the iPhone, especially the new iPhones, do a really good job of creating natural bokeh. So that's a tip number two. And then what I'm all about is having two people, if possible, because if one can hold a treat right next to the camera, the dog typically will be very excited, especially if it's a well-trained dog. Now, I have photographed dogs that are super well-trained and dogs that are kind of just brand new puppies that are all over the place. And having treats, no matter what, if you have a treat, it's just really fun because you can get all different photos. Especially like if you want to get something different, try taking that treat and having someone throw it. And while they're throwing it, you're taking pictures. And your iPhone, again, does a great job of doing fast shutter speed so you can take pictures consecutively in a row. And if you have a digital camera, that's even better because it'll do even a better job of that. But just trying to have them really like engaged in the treat. And if you can put the treat by the phone where the camera is, so it looks like they're looking at the phone, but they're really looking at the treat. Because as much as we want to say like our dogs are really well trained, and some of them are, but a majority of them are run by treats. They love their treats, and I get it. I'm run by sugar. So, it's the exact same thing. And so just also being really kind. I think sometimes owners can get a little stressed out when they want a picture of their pet and they're not doing what they're supposed to. But my whole thing is like, let the dog or the pet, like, just feel out the area. If it's a new area, if it's a dog, let them go sniff around and really just be comfortable. Maybe play with them a little bit and just get them comfortable in their environment. If it's at your house, they're already comfortable, so that's great. But if you are indoors too, one last tip is you want to make sure if you can be by a window, that would be awesome. And if you could have the light coming, so either the light is hitting their side of their face, that'll give more of a dramatic lighting. Or if you really want to see, especially for a black dog, if you really want to see their full features, if you can put the light, and I know this is typically different, like usually you put the light behind people, but for a black dog, if you can put the light, so like the light is shining through a window, and if the dog is looking at the window, like you're standing in front of the window, but the dog's looking at the window, that light will illuminate his face. And you can practice this too with just looking at yourself in your iPhone, if you're using your iPhone. So you turn the camera towards you, and if you just look at yourself, you can see how the light hits you, and that's exactly the same way. It's sometimes easier for people just to understand on themselves. So that's why I say, use your iPhone, turn the camera towards you, and just play around with it first. And then when you're ready and you're like, okay, this is good lighting, I can tell, then get the dog in and to take the picture, because they also have very short time span of what they're going to give you. They just want to be
exactly.
a dog.
Right.
Yeah.
They tend to have minds of their own. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's all you really have to do, and just be easygoing. Dogs can absolutely read your energy. So just be relaxed and excited and praise them, and just have fun with it.
Well, thank you for being a guest on the podcast, and we certainly love the tips and look forward to having you back on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.